Welcome, friends, and thank you for tuning in to WildOne Forever podcast. Grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. This is Meredith Loughran, and this is WildOne Forever. Our special guest today is an entrepreneur, model, and beauty editor and founder of Posh Glam. She strives to make a paradigm shift for social media creators to embrace diversity and inclusion. Please welcome Kimberly E. Stone.
Hi guys, I'm Kimberly. Nice to meet you. Thank you for interviewing me today, and I look forward to giving you more information on my background and POSHGLAM.com.
I am very curious about Posh Glam because when you said something about social media creators to embrace diversity and inclusion, there's usually a story behind that. Like, why? Why did you start this?
Well, I'll tell you, I took up sewing as a little girl. My mother was going to be in a wedding, and we went to the fabric store to pick out her fabric for the dress. And I remember just standing up for myself and standing my ground and saying, wait a minute, if you're going to have a dress, I want one too. So she took me over to the remnant bin, and I picked out some fabric, and I sat at 4 years old making my own little outfit with a needle and thread with my mother helping me, and then went on to do fashion runway, modeling parties, just a fashion. I became very fashion oriented, and I was an honor student and did really well in school. So I was also a journalist in one of my gifted classes as a kid, and that's kind of like where the conversion took place. So I've always been really fascinated by creativity, and had a good idea of what I liked even at a young age. I mean, I'm sure those of you that have had kids or have kids realize even in kindergarten they have a preference in terms of what they want to wear, what they want to eat, and how they want to portray themselves. So I took on to that at a very young age. And then, I spoke on behalf of my middle school when the news came to school, and then I was in a broadcast journalism class in high school as a cheerleader, and then from there in college, started Posh Glam as a way to feed my fashion enthusiasm and rekindle my journalism skills.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure, because I saw in your profile, you are a model also.
Yeah,
what was the family reaction to that, though?
Well, I have two very well-educated parents, and the modeling aspect of it was just something I did to make extra money in high school, college, and in life. With regard to modeling, sometimes you just may fit the mold and have good pictures, and your agent will call you on a Monday and say, hey, can you be there on Wednesday or Thursday? It's $500 or it's $2,000 or whatever it may be, and you get in where you fit in. I think being in a very commercial market in Georgia, I was lucky to have some pretty good agents that just, would pull gigs here and there. And then I also had some agents in New York. But, New York's the beauty capital, and it's very diverse. So when I was at NYU, I had some agents in New York that would work to what's called Develop Me. And you're supposed to give your agents a year of development before you really put your foot down and ask for a lot of work. So, I've been fortunate to have pretty agents and to book gigs here and there, but my main role is as a journalist and an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. So I do want to speak more about the journalism and entrepreneurship, but there are a lot of young women who are out there who want to look into modeling. What might be some of the pitfalls and some of the challenges that they have? Because I remember now I'm almost 50.
Mm-hmm.
When I was really young, I wanted to be a model so bad. I saw those magazines and things like that, but I'm all of 5'2". My self impression, I guess, was, that I was kind of a square. I didn't develop breasts or anything until I was much older. And finding an agent was difficult. I didn't fit the mold. These days, I see a lot more diversity as far as weight, skin color, things like that. Back then, there wasn't that much. When you get pushback and say, well, you're not, with rejection and everything, I guess that's where I want to go. How do you handle that? How would you tell maybe somebody who's younger, who is maybe dealing with rejection, that it's maybe not the end of the world?
Yeah, and it's not. The beauty of it is that was the first thing I was taught, was not to overcome rejection, excuse me, and to know how to pull myself back up and keep myself together. That it's highly competitive. To a young person, I would suggest that they just experiment with their looks with their friends, and try to find a haircut they like, try to find a look with their cosmetics they like. And if they want to really venture into modeling, maybe start with going to an agent and asking for what's called their photographer's list. Most of the top agents do have a photographer's list. It may be 15 to 20 photographers, and you can go through it and ask them what their test rates are, and then you can spend maybe like $500 to $1,000 on getting really good pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of times that can help get somebody in the door.
Mm-hmm. So let's speak a little bit about the journalism.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a certain genre that you like to cover? Is it just general writing and it kind of leaned that way? Why journalism as instead of maybe fiction?
Well, I'll tell you, I think the sewing at an early age played a role. I've also made my own cosmetics in high school. I was making my own clothes. And I studied with a professor from FIT in undergrad as well to kind of hone my skills. I've always had a lot of interest in it. The industry changed a lot. I'll tell you, when I was in high school, the magazines would have the clothing about 6 months in advance in the book, and they come into the stores later.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're really creative, you can maybe like try to do your own version of it, or get a seam ripper and get something from the thrift store. I mean, ultimately, I think fashion journalism is how it started, because I was really discovering myself as a young person, and I read a lot of the fashion magazines and I kept up with all of the trends and such. So I just applied that to journalism. I worked at a fabric store. I worked in luxury retail. I've worked at the cosmetics counter. I've worked at the dry cleaners. I think ultimately it was where my interest lied in terms of being a niche and a hobby. And, with the way the internet was when I first started POSHGLAM, a lot of it was lies, and we had to create content for the internet just for all of these facts and answers to be in place now, as is in today's era. But keep in mind, everything on the internet was created by someone. So I just happened to be one of the creators of the internet. It was very hard at first. And I worked with people my age, and they helped me. I had a lot of helping hands from people that were really avidly interested in the fashion community, and, supplemented their day to day, whether it be putting together a magazine, a print magazine, or working for a designer, or working as a talent agent. Posh Glam was a way to network before sites like Twitter and Instagram. So our next stage with the company is to create an app to quickly connect the fashion industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's we're able to do something that was a passion and really create a business out of it, because that's the dream. That's the dream, to be able to make a living doing the things that we absolutely love.
Yeah, and they say do what you love and never work a day in your life. I'm sure you've probably heard that. But, with Posh Glam, I think the pivotal part in terms of its growth was the shift in paradigm of the internet, where it started to be more fact-based information. I don't know if you remember in the 90s, where it's like, oh, everything on the internet's lies, don't trust anything on the internet, especially for schoolwork. And people like me had to make the decision to interview people, to create articles, and to publish them. Now, Posh Glam was on a was on a platform for WordPress for a while. And I think a lot of the major sites are on WordPress, but I lost faith in it with the hacks and things that took place. And, in terms of like selling ads and things of that nature. So we segued into putting things on Tumblr, and we're going to change the .com over into an app and a social network.
So right now, POSHGLAM is, I think I have a link here, and I'm going to share
It's
that.
Tumblr right now. It's like it's something.
POSHGLAM.tumblr.com or something.
Yeah, it reroutes to Tumblr because we're getting everyone ready for that to be our blog, and then POSHGLAM.com will end up being the social networking app.
That is really cool. Now, where's the app going to be available?
It's going to be a web-based and online app, I believe is the correct terminology, but it's going to be mobile and web on the phone, and it will allow for people to sign up on the website and go through a Rolodex of people that we've compiled over the years and network with them rather quickly.
So, speaking to POSHGLAM and the content that you're doing, for anybody who might be out there who is interested in submitting, are you open for submissions and things like that?
Oh, yeah, we're looking for strategic alliances. I've worked with over 5,000 designers when it was a blog platform, and about 3,000 or more PR companies, and then about 50,000 members of the press. So I actually can give you my email address for anyone that wants to reach out. I'm very open to communications and such.
Okay.
And that's Kimberly at POSHGLAM.com.
Cool. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop in a little bit of a promo here. And this is for our WildOne Forever subscribers and viewers. Let's just drop that in here real quickly.
Nice.
So, yeah, anybody who goes over to WildOne Forever and subscribes to the mail list, you are entered into this watch giveaway. It's by Nordgreen. And this is... this closes on September 4th, so there is still time to sign up for the newsletter. We have not started releasing any newsletter or any kind of mail at this point in time. We're just compiling the list, and then we're going to have a live blind drawing on September 12th, I think that is. And it's one watch. It is absolutely beautiful. This is by Nordgreen, and you can go visit Nordgreen at Nordgreen, NORDGREEN.com. Let's pull that off there. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, this was something that we spoke about a little bit before we went live, is our diversity and how we grew up. So, I'm half Korean. When I was growing up, my father was stationed. I'm an Army brat. My father was stationed in Korea. I didn't fit in Korea. I wasn't a Korean child. When we moved back to the States, I wasn't a white child. And so I got a lot of pushback, and it just felt like I didn't belong anywhere. Now, again, reading your profile, I know that both of your parents are African American. And yet here you are, you're very light skinned, you have light eyes, and people are like, I'm going to say it, folks, you're not Black.
Yeah, and I think that's something. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I'm not alone, though. Ultimately, you and I share that commonality of having a diverse background. On both sides of my parents and their background, of course, it's somewhat culturally diverse. And when I really looked into it, after all, yes, I do have multi-ethnic background, but ultimately, I was still raised as an African-American woman, as a fair-skinned African-American woman. So I think the world is so global now, and diversity is something we can really celebrate and appreciate, different perspectives and different things that other cultures have to offer. So I do think, we do share that common thread that, growing up and people questioning what ethnicity and background that we were is something that's a bit of a challenge, but we're also in good company. The world now is very diverse and multi-ethnic and, in some ways very flat. where we have exposure to people from all different backgrounds. So yes, I did have that come up as a young person, even older, where sometimes because I'm so fair skinned, people don't want to accept that I have two African American parents, and maybe because they are fair skinned and multi ethnic to some degree, that plays a role. But diversity is something I think, especially with the internet, we've all come to appreciate, and to pull from other cultures advice and hacks and different aspects of the different cultures that may lend great information to us when we're looking for other options in our lives. I will say that even with the fashion industry, with the different fashion weeks, unfortunately, this fashion week, from what I understand, in New York was canceled. And, it's disheartening because for me, as someone that's trying to bring together the fashion world, I do see a lot of diversity, and I do see how New York Fashion Week kind of set the standard for what London Fashion Week from there, and then Paris Fashion Week in Milan. And it's really unfortunate that with this COVID situation, we're having to really question, who we're interacting with on a personal basis, and also these events. But I do also think, because of the World Wide Web, diversity is something we've all come to appreciate. And even if we don't necessarily have Fashion Week to pull upon, we can still connect with one another like we're doing now. So it's a blessing all around.
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, it's one of those things. When I was growing up, the first thing that somebody would say wasn't like "hello." It was like, "What are you? You Chinese? You know,
Yeah.
Japanese?" And it was like, I didn't know how to react to that. And now I'm to a point where, like, is that really important? Is that why you need to talk to me? you
Yeah,
know?
and don't you feel like times have changed a little bit with the internet, though? I
Yeah.
think, the internet has allowed all of us to really feel connected regardless of the differences in terms of culture. The thing about social media is it really does give you the feeling of getting to know the person. And sometimes it may be the first thing they say, like, "Oh, what nationality are you?" But then once you really open up a conversation, you can find other things to talk about and other commonalities. And it is hard for that to be the initial thing that people tend to want to touch on. But I think we do start to develop a sense of tact with regards to shifting on to other topics.
Mhm. We've got a couple people here who are watching. I'm just going to put you on. I think I've got a little bit of feedback here. We've got Jake Estrada, who's listening in the background. We've got Mog Park, who she says she agrees. That's how we can learn. We should learn from each other and appreciate those differences. I absolutely agree.
Yes, profound.
hmm and Matthew's in the background. He's saying it's break time. I took one. I promoted Nord Green, so we're going to talk to Kimberly a little bit more.
And
Um, yeah, go ahead.
I think, the thing about it is, with regards to the World Wide Web and the internet, we have the ability to reach out and connect with people from other areas of the world, and, shape consensus, and really have an effect on sentiment around personal brands and business brands and such. And the conversation never ends, a 24/7 thing.
Mhm.
So it's nice to.
Sorry. So the question I had was, there are a lot of people who believe that social media is a separator. You're saying that it brings us together, and there are a lot of people who are like, nope, you kind of have your head in the ground. You're just focused on this, growing this network, and there isn't that much diversity. It's all kind of clicky. How do you, where you're saying, yes, it is a worldwide way of connecting with people. um, some people think it's very niche. How do you push back against that?
Well, it is very niche. I agree that sometimes it can be very clicky, especially with Instagram. I think you still have to make sure that you're putting a somewhat of an emphasis on talking to people in person and then going back on the internet to recap or to reconnect. So we cannot completely abandon real networking. So if he does feel the internet's somewhat niche or he feels closed out, maybe he should try other avenues of meeting people and then following up on the internet. I've
And then
noticed it's a lot more effective.
yeah. Now we've talked about a little bit about the racism, ethnicity, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you encountered things like sexual harassment, or just trying to break through the glass ceiling, being that you are a young woman, you're beautiful,
Thank you. So are you.
powered, you're doing things, you're moving and shaking. Have you gotten pushback as far as that, and maybe been harassed? How did you deal with anything like that?
Well, I'm lucky to say I haven't had any really big problems with anyone harassing me online. I think there was a big filtering process where maybe I didn't play into some of the you know I haven't played into some of the temptations. Maybe going on Twitter to um feed into some of the trends. Like for instance, I stood up for the Jewish resistance in late 2016. Like I did get involved with that. Every once in a while, if there's a protest, I'll definitely jump a hashtag and show my stance. But I've been very lucky not to have any really big problems with harassment or anything dangerous like that online. I think it's definitely a blessing. I think ultimately that's why you have to be very particular about making sure that you are meeting people offline and then reconnecting online instead of only relying upon networking online. I think it's more of a complement to offline networking.
Mhm.
And then
So
you won't necessarily see the same problem. Sorry about that.
no, I was going to ask, what would be the best advice for somebody who's actually trying to grow their network? Because a lot of people, they want to grow so fast. They want to trend, and maybe they do things that they might regret later.
Hmm.
Uh, what are some of the hacks that you can give people to help grow those networks and do it safely?
Maybe use some of the tactics that you would use offline, meaning know who you're getting involved with in terms of like their LinkedIn or how they're presenting themselves, or excuse me, maybe do research on the niche or the field or the genre. It's hard to grow a network online. It really is. It's not as easy as it used to be. People are somewhat risk adverse. So I think more importantly, maybe starting a small company around one of your hobbies and then tapping into it that way, which is more of a pull based approach rather than forcing yourself on people or pushing. Um, Ultimately, a lot of it, I think, online has a little bit to do with the law of attraction. And you still, even online, you still want to build a brand when it comes to like headers. You may want to make a graphic or, get a professional headshot done or take a moment to refine your bio. Put your best foot forward because people are going to make a very quick assumption online ultimately, and they just go with it because there's such a huge pool of people online. They may make a quick assumption based upon your headshot, your header, and your bio, and then try to um I would say have something that's really catchy about yourself, whether it's something you've invented or maybe like if you paint for a hobby or whatever it may be. There needs to be something that's more pull than push, because there's pull based marketing, there's push based, but it's better to have something that attracts people to you than it is to always have to vie for the next progressive contact.
There was a young woman who had posted on social media who she felt really depressed because she was saying, "Oh, I'm ugly. I'm seeing all of these things, all of these
Mm,
wonderful lives." And I
right.
was like, you realize that it probably took 100 shots to get that perfect picture, that they probably took the time to put on their lipstick,
Yeah.
to find the perfect pose, and things like that. Um, what would you say to that girl?
I would say, maybe look into maybe her face shape. Sometimes you can go based on face shape and get a good haircut. Um, More expensive beauty products do make a big difference. I would say the products at Sephora,
That.
yeah, their products at Sephora or Neiman Marcus are maybe they be like, for instance, Lauren Mercier is quadruply milled, so on the skin it's more light, or like something like a YSL or Tom Ford. These products actually they're luxury beauty products and they're attainable luxuries, and they do look better than what you would find at a Walgreens or a Target. So I think there's a lot of hope for people that have a low self-esteem, highlights or a haircut, trying to find out what face shape she has, and maybe cut her hair a certain way that she's happy with, and maybe color it, and then play up her favorite feature. Like if she feels like a lot of people are better looking than her, a lot of it's imaging. If she likes her eyes or maybe a lip plumper or something of that nature, it's really important to look on blogs or in magazines and try to find beauty tips that apply to you. So, I mean, if you could just see the way these transformations are taking place on Instagram, when the woman goes from completely dull to like this glamazon, it's because there's so many options. And with the beauty industry, a haircut can make a huge difference, or anti-aging products, or more expensive makeup. And these counters are out there, so she can easily walk into the mall, go to Sephora, ask questions, experiment, read magazines, talk to the beauty advisors, because this, maybe something as small as maybe like false eyelashes or a better concealer. I mean, there's so many options. She needs to really discover her own beauty and what works for her.
One thing that I'm going to say is never try and cut your own hair. I'm sure you remember Friends and Jennifer Aniston. Her hair was like all the rage. What was
Yeah.
it, in the 90s and stuff like that? And I remember reading in a magazine that all she did was basically put her hair in a ponytail and cut it so that she had the. Wait, I did that. I did that,
You
and
did it?
I almost had a bald spot in the back of my head because I wasn't even thinking that it was
Yeah.
so close to the top of my head.
Oh goodness, that's fun.
So it's like, okay, so here's a question that I have. I don't know if you have an answer for it. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot.
Okay.
But I don't know what kind of face shape I have. But one of the
Mhm.
struggles that I've had is that I don't think that I have a very strong jawline. So I've
Mhm.
been working on trying to get rid of my neck. I think for
Mhm.
women, that is a huge issue. Now, I'm not to a point where I want to hide it with turtlenecks. Plus, I live
Mhm.
in Florida, so that would be
Mhm.
hell. But so I mean, do you have anything that you do for your neck? Is it a beauty product? Is it an exercise? I want to know.
Well, I don't notice your neck at all. I think it's just something you may be more conscious of yourself. But there was I did years ago see, no, you pushed your chin back though. That doesn't count. There was a exercising thing that you can put in your mouth and pull back and forth that tightens up your neck. I don't know the name of it, but that's something I saw on like HSN or something years ago. So there's an exercise, how do you say, like, gadget for that type of thing. And also there are anti-aging products, like for instance, Dior has a really good anti-aging products instead of Chanel. You should probably see if you can find a gadget or a good potent anti-aging product to put from your face all the way down to your décolleté. There's always hope for whatever you're your
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it's kind of a running joke in my family because we have ears. We don't have any earlobes. It just kind of like falls into our neck. And
yeah.
I'm like, well, that carries into my chin and my neck and all that stuff. And exercise helps, exercise and hydration.
Hmm.
So we just shared out poshglam.com. I hope that everybody will tune in and keep an eye on that because now when is your site going to launch?
Probably by the end of the year. I'm really coming together with like, the different I'm gonna launch probably in beta and then from there expand. But I'm looking at the beginning of the year or the end of the year, excuse me, or the beginning of next quarter.
Hmm. And Mog here, I'm going to put her question up here. Interesting what you can do with makeup. Several vids out there of guys putting themselves out as beautiful hot girls. What does it say? Beautiful hot
Fooling
girls.
everybody until they come out and admit it.
Yeah, I don't remember the names, but this one dude did this for 10 years from Japan before admitting the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how transformative beauty products are. I mean, it's just seeing how these men can transform is just a testament to how beautiful we can really be as women with the same products. That's kind of funny she said that though, but I thought the same thing. People, it's so impressive what they can do that I'm not surprised that men are attracted to the beauty industry in terms of just showing how transformative and how much it really enhances.
Oh, a little bit of highlight to amazing things. One of the
Yeah.
things, my brother had a Halloween party that he had to go to. This is a few years ago. So he wanted to
Mhm.
kind of get that goth look. And
Yeah.
he was struggling with the eyeliner. I said, hold on, get over here. And I did it for him. And he didn't see what I was doing. But when he turned and he was in his costume, and he goes, oh, I look good. I thought for sure he was going to be hooked on eyeliner,
Yeah.
but wasn't. One of the things that I struggle with is there are a lot of people out there who say, "Oh, I have terrible skin. I don't want to add foundation. I don't want to add lotion."
Mhm.
Uh, I was one of those people because I have very sensitive skin. I have rosacea, so I have to be very careful. I really have to select my products carefully.
Mhm.
And I think so, like if you have skin problems and things, absolutely talk to a dermatologist, speak to your doctor first. But so you were saying something like, okay, the difference between maybe your cheaper brands compared to the more expensive brands.
Yeah,
A
if
lot of
someone
people are like, oh, you're just paying for the name brand.
no, not at all. They're formulated better. I mean, if you experiment at like a Neiman Marcus or Sephora, even more so than Ulta. Sephora has a great product range, and you'll find brands like NARS or YSL or Chanel or Dior will give you a different effect. These products at some of the inexpensive stores like Walgreens and Walmart or Target, I mean, yeah, they're still an option. I'm not saying that you can't use them, but maybe for someone that's looking for a really more of a polished or finished look for photos, I would move more towards the artistry lines like Makeup Forever or the Sephora line, NARS, some of these more artistic MAC. I wouldn't say MAC for like the everyday, but it really takes a lot of experimentation and feedback and effort. Even when I did my face before this broadcast, I had to know what I was doing, from my YSL foundation to my nude palette by Huda and my Dior mascara. I don't like lashes. That's one thing I don't like for my face. You mentioned having Asian ancestry. I have a little bit of my own, and I don't like lashes. I've done photo shoots with lashes, and I hated them. Um, but even in terms of enhancements, things like veneers or you know, some of the products like Nip and Fab, which are like really cool anti-aging products. It really all plays a role. Even with anti-aging, it's all exfoliation, SPF, and you know, there's a lot to look into in the beauty industry. So I am a huge proponent of the more expensive makeup brands because they're putting more into it and they're not as harsh. Sometimes some of the cheaper brands come across a little bit harsh or a little bit too, um, you know, they sit on the surface of the skin a little bit differently. So yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, because of your skin tone,
Hmm.
one of the biggest problems I think women have is finding the right foundation.
Hmm.
How do you find, do you stick with one color? Do you mix them to try and get as close to skin tone? What would you say for people who are looking for the right, maybe the right foundation? Because it does, when we put that on, I don't have any on right now, so I am distinctly red on
Hmm.
top of my lipstick and everything. Plus, my lighting is not all that good. But finding the right color, especially if somebody has irritated skin like I do,
Hmm.
where, you put it on and it's like, okay, well, it's distinctly different from what I see on my face every day, and which is different from the color of my neck, and then you, again, you are light skinned African American. They
Yes.
don't just make your color. How do you
No,
find
they
that,
do. They do.
find that blend?
Honestly, that is one benefit to being fair skinned is I can most of the time I can find my color. I think the problem with the colors not being there was more so with brown skin women years ago, where the European companies would have the brown skin colors, but then in the States, they wouldn't necessarily have that in the stores. So a lot of brown skin African American women would go without makeup a lot of the time. And I think now that the shift has happened in advertising and modeling and acceptance and diversity and all different types of beauty, we're noticing those darker colors with Makeup Forever, NARS, MAC, and with my color, it's not that difficult to find. My foundation that I'm using now is a YSL, and that's not one of my complaints. I am able to find my foundation, but I'll tell you, the formula makes a big difference. Like with my skin tone, um, it sort of comes across as dry or very like um it's not very photogenic unless I use one that's got like a creamy or more of a dewy consistency. So for you, I would recommend something like Chanel or NARS or YSL. And then for your rosacea, I would use something like a rose water on your skin to try to balance out the redness. And I think you can use also a green primer.
I think a lot of people, especially Asians, are probably afraid of the green primer.
Well, you need a color
But
correcting
it's
primer.
actually a great way to cover a lot of the issues that you have before you put on your foundation.
Yeah, if you use a color correcting primer, like for instance, Smashbox has a good one. But you're looking for something that's going to cancel out the red before you actually apply your foundation and match your color.
I remember the one time I sat at a counter and I didn't recognize the woman in the mirror after they were done with me, only
Hmm.
because when you're not used to wearing makeup, and there are really good benefits to it. If you have a good foundation that's got the SPF, you're protecting yourself from the sun. And
Hmm.
sometimes there are things in the foundation that are beneficial. So if it feels like pancake, you probably need to level up with the quality.
Yeah. It makes a huge difference. I mean, especially when you see the skin in person, because the more expensive products obviously have more trials behind them, and they're able to invest more in the actual ingredients. I do think to find a look that's good for you, depending upon your life, whether it's going to college or to work or, you know, depending upon what your lifestyle demands, it's really important to experiment for your best look. For your best look, there's no cookie cutter answer. You may have to go to the store and try some things on, and then sometimes the products can oxidize. Going to the mirror at home, seeing yourself in the sunlight, sometimes using better cosmetic brushes helps. Ultimately, we all stand a chance at being good looking and presentable. It's just a matter of knowing how to call upon professionals and find the right beauty regimen for us.
Yeah, there was one time where I want to say makeup and beauty probably got me out of a really dark place. I don't know if you deal with depression at all or anxiety or something, but I was kind of going through a bad point in my life. And a friend of mine, I guess she just got sick and tired of me belly aching and
Mhm.
complaining and just being this sad sack. And she said, "Oh my gosh, just go paint your toenails or something." And I was angry. I was so mad at her. I was like, what the hell does that mean? I didn't understand. And so I just kind of hung up the phone. I didn't want to talk to her for a couple of days. And I was like, grump, grump, grump. I went to the dollar store and I found like the brightest, ridiculous color that I could find.
Mhm.
And I painted my toenails. And I
Did you
realized
feel better?
I felt so much better.
Yeah, of course you did. You know, the thing about it is sometimes we can get into a slump or life can get a little bit hard, but beauty does have that effect, like going to the spa or, they say that like a lipstick can make a huge difference. Going to the mall and just finding, a nice lipstick or a new eyeshadow color or mascara, even going to the salon. I agree with your friend. I mean, we all have hard times where we may feel a little bit down in the dumps, but getting your hair done, getting a facial, finding a new beauty product or a new beauty tip to really lift us up, it really makes a difference. So I'm sorry that you experienced that. I think we all go through ups and downs. It's what life's about. But beauty serves as a great pick-me-up, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I've had um, a time, I guess, I don't think it's just me because I've seen this with several women. When they're ready for a life change, whether it's an age thing or just a life thing, maybe it's going through a divorce, maybe it's
Yeah.
recovering from one, the hair is the first thing to go. Like if you see a woman like significantly change her hair, I don't
Oh,
know
here's about a man.
that she is like hunting.
Yeah,
Maybe that's the wrong word.
I agree with
But
you.
there's like a life change and she's ready to make that change and it just shows on the outside.
Hmm.
Yeah. Have you noticed that too?
Yeah, I think when it's about a man, a woman sometimes will just cut off her hair. I feel the exact same way. And it's like, oh, you cut your hair off. It's like, is it about a man? And they finally admit, yeah. Yeah.
I told my husband, now my husband and I, we've been married for a long time and we've known each other way even longer.
Hmm.
And I told him, I said, I just want to, I want to buzz my hair because my hair, it's up in a hat right now, but it's down my back. And I go
Hmm.
from extreme because I tend to grow a ponytail out. I donate that. And then I go from really long to really short. And I
Yeah.
said, one day I just want to buzz my head. I just want to see what it feels like because I know it's going to grow back. And it'll probably grow back white because I'm seeing more and more of it these days.
Yeah.
But, and he was like, no, because you're going to be outside with the dogs until it grows back.
Yeah.
I said, that's what wigs are for, right?
Yeah. Men like long hair. I think that's from the book The Rules.
I don't know what it
Bright
is. I'm like,
colors
you don't
and
have to
long
carry it
hair.
around, right? You don't have to maintain it.
Great.
So now tell me, speaking of hair, tell me about yours. I mean, is it, uh,
Textured.
it's textured?
Yeah, it's really thick and it's textured, and I have it professionally straightened right now.
Uh-huh.
So, and I have a bit of a bob that's a little bit longer on the right side. I kind of like wanted to cut it kind of a funky way. Um, I have different textures, like probably 2 or 3 different texture types in my hair, and I typically go to the salon. Um, it's not something that I put too much emphasis on. I went without a relaxer years ago, and I think I had this funny idea of having like really long hair all the way down my back by now, but I don't. And I just go to the salon and it's still thick and I still love it, but it definitely surprised me when I first went natural. So
So explain that to me, okay? Because I obviously don't have the textured hair.
yeah, well, I'll tell you, with the trends for women of color, it was to stop using relaxers.
Yeah, okay.
And I was using what's called the Feta Specific, which is supposed to be a really high-end relaxer, but I wasn't happy with it. And the big trend towards going natural and using like products like Shea Moisture or the other more Afrocentric home hair care product lines that are out there for African American women, this shift in paradigm took place where women of color were encouraged to go natural, and women who didn't necessarily know that they'd have like really healthy long hair were able to live the idea of non-relaxed and textured long hair. And it's such a phenomenon looking at sites like YouTube, where women have discovered different oils like almond or jojoba or grapeseed or shea butter, and they've really started to take care of their hair and found ways of keeping it healthy and growing it long, whether it's sealing the ends or steaming it. And it's an exciting time for women of color when it comes to textured hair. I think mostly in the early 2010, 2011, 2012 was when the fad kind of hit, and you don't hear much about relaxers anymore.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, as a white woman, I'm going to say that just because it's easier than saying I'm an Asian American, whatever.
Yeah.
When I think of natural, I think, more like Afro, and maybe that's stereotypical, and maybe that, maybe, I don't know, I'll get hate mail. You can send hate mail to Meredith at wildoneforever.com. But, so I think of that. So when you're saying things like product and getting it straightened and things, I'm like, that's not natural. And maybe that's my Aspie thing too. I'm very literal when it comes to things like that. So I don't quite understand it.
When you say Afro, that's part of it. I mean, yeah, an Afro, though, is cut in a way where it's round and you can pick it out and it's all the same length, around, the face. But it's the same idea. It's only the advancements in the products that have given us a different approach. Meaning, what would have been an Afro if cut very sharply on the ends to be picked out as an Afro is now it falls maybe after a part and it is moisturized with oils or butters to allow for wearing it kinky and down, just, kind of like a kinky curly cut, or blow drying it out and flat ironing it with the new advancements in the Chi irons and the legacy irons and such. So an Afro is somewhat along the lines of what it is, but it's not cut like an Afro. And the product lines are different and the tools are a lot different because we didn't have the ceramic irons at the time when the Afro was very prevalent.
I have a lot of college who, oh my gosh, they would have burns on their forehead because they would put the butter in or the oil. They would treat their hair just so that it could stay soft and manageable. But then they would be burning themselves all the time with the iron to try and straighten out their hair. And it was just like that. It takes a lot of maintenance. It takes a lot of maintenance and extra time in the day just to kind of walk out the door and, for them to look presentable. And then on top of that, not only the hair, but, trying to do the face, the makeup, and then finding the right thing. College, it's like, it's laid back, but at the same time, you want to make a good impression.
Well, I'll tell you, there have been a lot of advancements in hair care for African Americans, so it's not the same as like having to use a straightening comb on your edges. I do think the ceramic iron made a huge difference because now it's really just a matter of a good product as a shampoo and a conditioner, like a Moroccan oil, and at times maybe something like Design Essentials or something like an Oleoplex treatment. And just really using these tools that we have, like a blow dryer with a concentrator and a good brush to get the hair straight, and then following up with a ceramic flat iron. So it's not as difficult as maybe you observed years ago with the flat iron or manageability. It's a lot easier now, especially with the resources and tools that we have, which is a blessing, and it's great for maintenance and beauty changes for women of color. I'm glad that you did observe the transition with regards to how much has really changed, and that's something that you were able to pick up on. And it's an exciting time because from what I can pull, there weren't African American women weren't really as into cosmetics years ago, because what we really had was maybe like Fashion Fair or Black Opal, and then later with Black Up. And it's so much more inclusive in terms of the product range that's at the beauty counter now, from anywhere from having a foundation the right color, or a powder, or more pigmented eyeshadows and lipsticks and blushes. So it's a great time to be in the arena. And it's something that I think is really going to help people in terms of self-esteem, because ultimately European beauty products have always been there. And now African American women are starting to find a nice, assortment of products and options for tailoring to darker skin tones and more textured hair.
Mm-hmm. So we passed our half an hour. And we're actually approaching an hour. We're at 51 minutes right now. And I want to thank you so much for spending the time with us. Now, where can people find you? Are you on Instagram, Twitter? Where can people find you?
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram, Kimberly E Stone, and Posh Glam, POSHGLAM. And I'm also on Twitter, and I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, on both names, Kimberly E Stone and Posh Glam. And I just will keep you posted with regards to when the app is going to launch. So if you want to follow me there and then ask any additional questions or keep in touch, I'd be happy to connect.
Absolutely. We definitely want to know when you have that launch. And so tell me just really quickly, what is your favorite social media app? Do you have a preference?
Well, I like Twitter for journalism because I follow my favorite news outlets, and then I can to me, Twitter's a lot easier than Instagram. I'm okay with Instagram, but I'm not as active on that platform. Twitter is really good for journalism, in my opinion, as a microblog. So feel free to reach out to me there, and I'm happy to answer any questions. If you want my email, it's Kimberly@POSHGLAM.com, and we'll keep in touch that way.
Excellent. And if there's anything else that you want to add, we can end here. But I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. We are going to have a write up here with all of her links so that you can follow her on wildoneforever.com. Obviously, we want you to follow poshglam.com. I love how you say posh.
Thank you.
I say posh. It's like a northeastern accent. Poshglam.com. Follow her on her social media to help her grow the network and just share the love, because honestly, with the networking, I love networking with people because you just never know who you're going to meet up with, and where those connections will take you. I learned something. I'm going to look for that thing for my neck.
Yeah, I'll look it up for you. I'll email it to you if I can find it.
Mm-hmm. That's my biggest struggle, because if you saw me, I've got my shoulders back and I have my neck forward like this, so it doesn't look terrible on camera.
You look fine. Beautiful.
But I really do appreciate you, Kimberly E Stone. POSHGLAM.com. Make sure that you follow her everywhere and look for the article on WildOne Forever. We're also going to be posting this pretty soon on Podbean, and that is going to get aggregated out to iHeartRadio. So if you're tuning in, make sure you follow us there too. Kimberly, any final words for everybody?
Well, thank you for having me, and keep in touch.
Thank you. You guys have a great evening. We'll see you the next time.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to WildOne Forever. Our podcast is available on Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Listen Notes, and Podbean. Become part of our show by supporting this broadcast through sponsorship and advertising opportunities. Contact advertising at wildoneforever.com.